Hi, good morning. Welcome to my Wednesday devotional. As you can see, we're back in the studio once again, but it is getting nice outside, so I hope wherever you are at, you're enjoying some early spring weather. All right, so we are back on Esther chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'll talk about it. Drinks were served in gold goblets of many designs, and there was an abundance of royal wine reflecting the king's generosity. By edict of the king, no limits were placed on the drinking, for the king had instructed all his palace officials to serve each man as much as he wanted. All right, so last week we were talking about all the decorations, the elaborate stonework, the intricate stonework and decorations that were very expensive in this palace. And we know that the king, he was in charge of many provinces over land from Africa to Egypt, and obviously he had a lot of money, right? Okay, so but interestingly enough, it talked about the king's generosity, that there was abundance of royal wine, because as you know, there are princes and royalty and royal families in many other countries. Some are just larger than others, and this one happened to be at its time very, very large. Okay, the king was in control of a lot of things, and many provinces and territories. So he had a lot of money, a lot of power, and oddly enough, he was very generous. And you would think, in modern times we hear about billionaires or something like that are real cheap or something like that, because they want to save all their money, they want to stay rich. But this king, interestingly, was very generous, and then we can see each man was served as much as he wanted. There was just no limits, right here, no limits placed on the drinking. So, and of course, alcohol isn't cheap. And so very interesting, as we are really focusing and honing in on each verse. And so I started thinking about generosity. What is that a reflection of? And then it actually hit me about this verse, famous verse where Jesus in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. In other words, how you spend your money is directly connected to your emotional heart, your spirit. Are you cheap with your money and chintzy and stingy and don't give? If you're willing to do that with your money, that's exactly how your emotions, your heart will also be. And that's absolutely true. So showing that the king was very generous and didn't worry about, hey, whatever, no limits, doesn't worry about these kind of things. That just shows his, not only his tangible generosity, but his emotional generosity. I'm guessing in my head, maybe he was very flamboyant, or something. I get this sort of image in my mind. I don't know that part yet, but what I do know is he's very generous with his money. So that is very, very interesting. And if nothing else, I hope you really think about this this verse right here that Jesus spoke about, especially since we're in tax season. We just filed our taxes. But I just wanted to share, thinking about the generosity and stuff like that. When I was in my early 20s, long before I met my husband, I was very stingy, and I did not give, my money. I kept all for me, myself, and I. And, I was trying to protect myself emotionally and tangibly, because again, those two are tied together. I was more in fear-based. I was afraid to give because I thought, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to eat? All this kind of stuff. But you learn in your relationship with Jesus about tithing and 10%. When you give your 10% to the Lord, he always takes care of you. That the godly will not go hungry. I read that in a proverb in the Bible the other day, and I thought, that's absolute proof. And so by the king being generous, now remember in the book of Esther, they don't talk about, this is the only book in the Bible where God is not mentioned directly. But you can see right here, the king's generosity, that's how, it's kind of a reflection of the Lord, actually. The Lord is very generous, and he wants us to be generous to help others, that especially those in need. So This is really actually great tie. I hope you guys can see this and will be moved by that as you go throughout your week. And like I said, we are in tax season. So just to be thinking about, how do I spend my money? You know, do I give to others? It doesn't mean just because you give something to someone else, you're not going to starve. You know, you can still spend on yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. We just have to be balanced, and I think that's what God's asking and showing. You know, where is your heart? Did you see someone on the streets that was asking for money? Did you help or not? Or did you only give a really small amount that wouldn't really help, just because you think, oh, I got to hold back? You know, these are all the things to think about. You know, the dilemma: do I give money, and if so, how much? That's another thing. You know, some people will say, well, I'll just give them food because, you know, they might be on drugs or something like that. Well, is that our place to decide that? What did God put on your heart? Did he say just go ahead and just give that amount, give a large amount? You know, I don't know, things to think about. All right. Well, we'll continue on with Esther, as the story starts to make the turn. You know, this was all kind of backstory, just showing how generous the king was. You know, we're in the setup of the story. So, all right, we will continue next week. Thanks very much for watching, and I appreciate all your views and likes, comments, shares, even better, subscriptions to my channel. But definitely the views, because the more views that get out there, then it can be out on the main page on YouTube, and that just gets God's word out. That's all I'm trying to do here. So thanks very much for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.